everyone. Welcome to Timeout with Derek and Joe. For Joe Azalina, I'm Derek Gano. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. I hope you're listening to this on a beautiful sunny day, as it has been Friday afternoon here. Has been very brutal and rainy and whatnot. So, uh, what do we have planned for today, Joe?
Derek, we have some questions we got from some of our listeners out there. Thank you to the timeout listeners. And we're going to run down some questions and talk some NFL football as the season's approaching week 6 coming up here on Sunday afternoon.
Yep, so we asked for some questions to either be sent over our Facebook page or via email. You can reach us over email at timeoutderekandjoe@gmail.com. Please send us in a question if you want it answered on air, and we can get around to it today. As Joe said, we're going to get to NFL questions. Our first question came from Lindsay Heil, my sisters. Thank you, Lindsay, for sending one in. What are your thoughts on Carson Wentz? Do you think he is overrated, or is he a great quarterback who has just had a lot of bad luck over his first few years? Thank you, Lindsay, for that question. Joe, first thoughts.
Well, I do think that there was a lot of hype around Wentz coming into the league. He was the number 2 pick behind quarterback Jared Goff. And a lot of Eagle fans thought that, he was going to be kind of the savior of the organization, and quarterbacks can't always be that. They have to have a great defense. They have to have all this stuff around them. Unfortunately for Wentz, though, he got hurt in one of the biggest years the Eagles had, won the Super Bowl, but it was Nick Foles' team at that point. To answer Lindsay's question, and again, thank you for sending it in, I think he is a little overrated. I mean, he's a good player. There's no doubt about it. But Carson Wentz he does some things that are questionable, like throw the ball on the ground. He does it more than once. He doesn't hit open receivers sometimes. And he's just not, I don't think, the franchise quarterback the Eagles are looking for. So to answer Lindsay's question, yes, Carson Wentz is a little bit overrated.
Before I get going, so I will ask, what are your thoughts on Jalen Hurts? We mentioned this maybe a couple episodes ago. What do you think they should do with him moving forward? Should he be more involved? Should he get a couple plays a game or full on take over if Wentz continues to struggle?
Here's the thing about that, and even though I said he's overrated, I still think there's talent there. He doesn't have talent around him right now. I mean, again, Jackson and Jeffrey not going to play. The offensive line is belittled with injuries, right? So, yeah, Jalen Hurts is a really good player. He's very athletic. He came from 2 great schools in Alabama and Oklahoma. He knows how to play the position. You can put him in maybe a wildcat to run the football. You can maybe do some zone reads with him, the RPOs. But the bottom line is you're either going to trade Carson Wentz or you're not, because if you don't trade Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts isn't going to see the field. Now, you did ask the question, though, what do I think about, do they put a package in? Yeah, but that's not always a great thing for a quarterback. You need to have consistency at quarterback. This is going down a really wrong road for the Eagles, and the fans aren't going to like it.
Yeah, it's tough to, and I know that has been the thing over the past few years, is sometimes to bring quarterbacks in, but you can't get people off their rhythm. They need to get a rhythm while they're going. And now, looking at Wentz's stats over the past few years here, rookie year, okay, he struggled a little bit, but the second year, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. In the next year, 21-7, in a 5-6 record. The second year he was 11-2, 27-7 last year, but he was 9-7 as a team. Now I realize touchdown interceptions is not the strict basis, but again, look at who and Mike, your brother Mike mentioned last week. Look at who he's throwing to here:
in his
Travis
defense.
Fulgham, Greg Ward, Deshaun Jackson has not been healthy. Jalen Rieger is a nice up and coming talent, but um,
Maybe number
Dallas
one.
Goddard is hurt. Or, Zach Ertz has been a little shaky this year. So is he overrated compared to the number two spot he was taken? I think so. Yes, you have to say that, and I think that is always going to come to the QBs who get taken too early in drafts, and
Right.
you've seen it more in these past few years. Is when one goes off the board, the next team has to move up and take the next one before they all get off the board, and then the next one moves up in the draft to take the next one, and they go way too early.
Hey, quick
Um,
question. Not to interrupt, but you really kind of struck me. It just came to me. I have heard too on multiple different formats on the radio, TV. Do you think Carson Wentz had such a hard time with not being part of that on the field of the Super Bowl that he's trying so hard and everything he can do? Remember, he still has Miles Sanders. You gotta give him the ball more. But I'm just saying, maybe it's just too much for him. The pressure is going to end up being too much for him. His
I
own
guess
pressure.
that's only natural, right? To you, you get hurt and someone comes in who the fan base seems to love, and
Yeah,
he plays very well, and
Nick
he
Foles
stuck
worked out.
around for a year after that, I believe, right? And then
Yeah,
he ended up leaving.
yeah. Still winning
um
games too.
yeah, it's only natural for him to feel like, oh well, if our backup took him to the Super Bowl, and I have to do that too. And yeah, I agree. He makes some bad passes. He makes some bonehead throws. But do they move on from him? No, I don't think it's time yet. And we'll talk about later, especially with the division now being wide open for the taking. So, and anything can happen in the playoffs. I think they do get, whether that's the right move or not. I think they get Jalen Hurts involved more, whether it's some packages, and whether I agree with that. Um, we'll see how that package works a little bit, but I think it's wide open for him now, especially with Dak going down. We're going to address that later, but the Reds Washington football team,
It's
the
safe.
Giants are not at that level, so it's his for the taking, and we'll see where they go.
Well, always, and again, thanks, Lindsay, for that question. Listen, my friend Matt Kay actually posed some questions, and we got one here. Who is the surprise team or teams in the NFL this season? Derek, do you want to take a shot at that?
Well, and I don't know. We haven't talked. I don't know if you're going to go surprising positive. I'm going to go surprising negative. The
Ooh,
0
I
and
like.
5 uh, Atlanta Falcons.
Uh huh.
I mean,
Who's
I
on your
don't
Flanders?
think I had them in the playoffs in the beginning of the season, but coach just fired. Uh, Matt Ryan has been around for a long time. Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley has really been playing well, although they're still losing. Bringing in Todd Gurley, they have a ton of weapons, and they're 0 5. And
Yeah, they're
that
not as bad as
is
the Giants. Yeah, this is bad. This is
it.
something.
It's a tough division. Granted, with the Saints and the Panthers actually aren't playing in that bad, and Tom Brady coming in, I didn't expect them to make the playoffs, but only what 2 years removed from a Super Bowl run now,
Right.
um, to be struggling as much as they are. That's my surprising negative team. Surprising positive team. I would say the Steelers being 4-0. Um, Big Ben not skipping a beat. after missing basically the whole year last year, coming right back in, and they're doing great all of a sudden again. It's amazing
A lot
how
of weapons.
one quarterback can make all the difference. With the backup, they were horrible, but with Ben, they're amazing, and they're not even that healthy right now. Deontay Johnson has been out for a bunch of games now. Their number 2 receiver, and Juju Smith-Schuster has been, kind of iffy, but they've been very good. The defense, it's been behind the defense who has really been playing well. What do you got for surprising teams?
Well, the funny thing is, I jotted down three from each three from each league. I'll only go in a little detail with one, and I mean one overall. I won't do even two. But anyway, I have the Los Angeles Rams, who are 4-1. I just think their high-powered offense is really good, but their defense might not.
Is that surprising though?
I mean,
they're playing
to
well?
me, well, again, I listened to you, Derek, and I said Sean McVay might have been figured out a little bit, right? So I did take that into account. But no, that's a good. You called me out. I get that. That's good. The Carolina Panthers are 3-2. Remember, McCaffrey missed some time,
Yes.
and Bridgewater's not your typical star, but they got weapons. So I mean, Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel, and I know DJ
Mhm.
Moore. But they're one of my other ones. Chicago Bears at 4-1. Are you kidding me? I know they're really good, but Trubisky and Foles, I wouldn't have thought it. So that's another one. And then I got the Indianapolis Colts. And let me tell you something. Listen, I know they can win. I know they're really good defense, but Phillip Rivers is kind of looking like Phillip Rivers when he was young. This isn't young Phillip Rivers. This is like older Phillip Rivers. So they surprised me a little bit. And no, I didn't copy you, Derek, but I do have the Pittsburgh Steelers. I do. And for a lot of the reasons you did, I think we watched this game as in football as a whole, and you see certain things you can't deny, and their offensive weapons are outstanding. And if Chase Claypool and a guy, Johnson comes back, they're just going to help Schuster out. So they're my ones. As the negative, that was a great point by you. I didn't prepare a negative. I would say the Niners. Aren't we a little surprised? I know they have injuries, but Garoppolo's back now. Be careful because you're not winning the division with Seattle up there. So you got to fight for a wild card. I would say my old school team when I was younger, the 49ers, are kind of disappointing right now. So, but if you don't have anything else, I will go to question 3 if that's good.
I will say the Niners, they are disappointing. They've had a lot of injuries. Garoppolo went down. I've never been a big Garoppolo fan, honestly. He's really just been more of a game manager, as they say.
Right.
Just don't turn the ball over, and we'll run the ball majority of the time.
Right.
With Mostert hurt and Breda's now gone, they just haven't. Bosa's injured, I believe. Yeah,
I thought so.
They just they haven't looked the greatest. I'm not really shocked. I thought that was going to be a very tough division. I couldn't tell you offhand what games they've played in division and whatnot, but that's going to be very tough for them.
Lost the Eagles, Derek.
Well, and that's not a good sign right now.
In Arizona.
With the Rams, the Cardinals are starting to play well after struggling the first few games, and the Seahawks seem to be the class of the division right now, undefeated still.
All right, well, that was a good number 2 there from Matt, and we got another one from Matt K. After 2 coaches fired, who is on the hot seat? And Derek, I'm going to show my NFL naivety, I guess you'd say. I know the Falcons coach was fired. I can't remember his name, but I can't remember the second coach that got fired.
Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn was out in Atlanta. Who's next? Bill O'Brien, by the way, was the second one out.
Thank you, former Penn State coach.
We will say in the preseason, I do remember us talking about, is Bill O'Brien the right fit? No. I don't think he is, because they have a lot of talent there right now, and they keep losing.
Deshaun Watson needs to go to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Just saying. I mean, that's like
Who's the next one? It's not really going out on a limb, but I think it's pretty obvious to me who the next one is going to be. It's going to be Adam Gase in New York for the New York Jets. Things just are going south. Obviously, if you follow the headlines of the NFL, Le'Veon Bell was just released. They
There we
just signed
go.
him to this huge contract, and all of a sudden, I mean, now it hasn't really come out what's gone on in the background, but um, he was just released after this big contract,
Yes, it
and
was
so
there.
he's going to play for the Chiefs now, which is looking very good for them.
Yeah, they
But
need a
obviously they brought him in to develop Sam Darnold. Darnold hasn't been the healthiest, but and to Gase's credit, they have not put anybody around him. And they did
yeah,
that with Le'Veon Bell, but Le'Veon
yeah.
Bell was
Crowder.
injured a bit.
Crowder's okay.
Crowder, but Crowder
Okay.
is someone you would want as a maybe a two, but a three receiver, not a one.
Right. They don't
Um,
have a one.
it's been tough. It's been tough, and but people are going to scapegoat somebody, whether it's the GM or the head coach. It's not like he's well liked there either. I don't think
No,
so.
I don't think so
Um,
either.
Adam Gase would be my guess as to the next person who's
Well, before I
gone.
give you mine, can I just ask a question that is going to fire up a lot of these fans? And you think I know,
Jets fans?
but no,
Jets
no,
fans? Oh,
no. But Derek, do you think there's any way that if the Eagles go more south, more negative, more things happen, do you think Peterson or Howie Roseman gets fired?
no,
Okay.
no.
I just want to
Well, the
it
GM may be another question, but the if you win a Super Bowl, I think you're pretty safe for a bunch of years.
okay.
Um,
And that's fair. I was just posing it. We know we get listens from Philly fans. We know that. That's a fact. So I'm just throwing it out there because, again, comment, like, and also email us because we always want to have interaction here on the Timeout Show. But no, listen, you're gonna laugh, but I have Adam Gates too. Um,
yeah, I mean it's kind of obvious.
but again, here's me being transparent. What about the Vikings head coach? They're 1-4. They have weapons. Justin Jefferson starting to step up as a receiver, the rookie from LSU. Adam Thielen's a star. Kirk Cousins is terrible. He's not good. I don't know why they gave him a contract. But no, let's go back to the Jets. I'm going to stay with New York. I just wanted to throw that in as a side about Minnesota. But Derek, do they? I don't want to say tank, but if they're going to continue to be bad this year, do you get Trevor Lawrence if you have the number one pick? Do you give up on Darnold this early? I mean, he's a good player, good quarterback.
Now, I think you asked before the season, and I said no way. But I think the further along you go here, the better the chance is. Now there are still some teams who are right down there with the Jets, the Giants, and the Falcons. Neither of which I think Lawrence is probably going to be maybe the Jaguars. It's going to be somebody who is going to trade up in the draft. I don't think because I truly think Darnold is where they want to go. Daniel Jones seems to be the guys, which you can get later on in the draft is my point, I guess. In the top picks seem to be offensive linemen and maybe some running backs and some quarterbacks recently.
Right.
You don't really see the receivers. They can drop back to a number 10 and get the top receiver.
Henry Ruggs went 13 or 14 to Oakland, if I'm not mistaken. And CeeDee Lamb, Derek, went right after the Eagles picked at 18. So they're two of your main guys. And, there's still receivers in college football that we watch them I know I watch them every week that are very, very good receivers. So I guess there's not much to say. Gase is gone. maybe for New York fans, you just kind of hope for baseball again if you're a Yankees fan or a Mets fan. But yeah, the Jets are in trouble.
Yeah.
Derek, this is an interesting question. I'm going to kick it to you.
Yeah, so from Brad S, we received a question with everything going on here. So his question, with the increase in the positive COVID tests around the league, do we think the NFL season will finish on time? Will it get delayed? Will they potentially move to a bubble format that the NHL and the NBA went to? Um, what do we think that the NFL is going to do? Do you want to start off that question, Joe? That's a heavy one.
This is like a loaded potato. Like this is literally. I mean, it really is. It's sad we're in this situation, and I feel bad for. I think one night I was watching television, and the numbers of people that passed away from this virus is really crazy. It's unfortunate, and we don't want to see our athletes getting sick either. So, listen, the bubble to me isn't realistic in the NFL. I don't know how you. We just talked about this not too long ago, maybe half an hour ago. That like you can't bubble 30 teams. It's going to be hard. Like you could play East versus East, you could play West versus West. You really are going to see a lot of each other. You're going to get a true reading of what's happening. I don't know. The answer probably is no. But Derek, the high schools are trying it. The colleges are giving it a shot. But a contact sport, spit flying, all that other stuff, I don't know if. And then the really interesting point to his question was, but finish on time. I'm going to say no. And somebody I talked to that follows the NFL, coworker of mine said to me the other day, what do you think about them pushing the Super Bowl back a couple weeks? I said, I mean, I could see it, but again, that's probably because we're going to be pushing weeks back because of COVID tests, right? The Patriots just had somebody else test positive again. So as much as we're seeing here in the Lehigh Valley, not as bad, right? I really hope to God. Now, wait, I want to talk about this too, because this is very interesting. I found out today from my father. As Derek knows, my girlfriend quickly is in California. If you go on a plane and you wear a mask the whole time until you get to your destination, 0% chance you get COVID from the plane. So that's really interesting. All these guys are wearing masks. If you take them off on the plane, your chances are going to go up. You can't really social distance on a plane. So again, I'm going to leave it up to you because I don't know if they can bubble. I don't think they can. The season pushed back. I see that. Yes. I hope we have a Super Bowl this year because that's a huge thing. Everybody enjoys the Super Bowl, but COVID seems to ruin a lot of things, and rightfully so, though.
So, and as you hinted, full disclosure, this is obviously a sports talk show. We're going to be talking about this in terms of sports. You know, we're not going to really delve into COVID in general. No, you kind of pointed at it, but in our hearts and prayers go out to everyone who has maybe been impacted by this. But in terms of sports here, and you mentioned it, when the NBA and NHL, who did a great job and had very minimal positive viruses in the bubbles, there were only half the teams in there. There were 12 or 16, 15 teams that were in there. We're not at a point in the season when the NFL can do something like that. Maybe down the line, which they may end up doing, maybe they'll end up creating a bubble in the team of the higher seed or something like that. I don't know, but still, then you get into they'll have to go different places depending on the seeding, and it gets kind of iffy. And you're seeing it. There's every week there seems to be one or two teams that have a little bit of an outbreak going on, and there's only been one game, I believe, that's been canceled, and that but that's shuffled around. I don't know if you saw it on ESPN or anywhere, but that's shuffled around like 5 different other games that had nothing to do with that. But
Right.
um how much can they shuffle around before you start getting into muddy waters? Um I think they I think they make it because, and this, may not sound good, but NFL is a money business, and in their business it's pretty brutal in that it's the next person up. You saw it with the Patriots. If their star quarterback went down, well, bring in the next guy. We don't care. It's
You're
just
right.
they want
Yeah.
the game played. They want they it's all about money. It's a money business. And I really don't see the league getting canceled unless there's something drastic that
Right.
happens.
Right.
But if we see 1 to 2 teams each week, I don't think so.
Do
No,
you
it'll
think
go the
too,
full.
like a Jerry Jones, right? Like, so Dallas is a big epicenter of football. Do you think maybe they put like 8 teams there and like they start dividing teams up and just say it? And I'm saying depending how COVID is in certain areas, but I just wonder if that's another route they go. But that's still hard to do though. And I think
It's
that's the whole thing, right? It's just hard to do.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And um I mean, maybe they can get really creative and put like all Texas teams playing against each. You would have to completely rearrange schedules, but
Oh
like all
yeah,
Texas teams playing against each other, all California teams playing against each other, so there's left travel.
East
I
Coast
don't
team.
know.
Yeah. I
It,
know.
it's
I
it's
know.
very tough. It's very tough. We'll see where the NFL goes with it. For now, like we said, they just seem to be pushing back games, and only
It's
one's been
working so
canceled
far.
so far. So
Yeah, and like
we'll
yeah,
see.
it's crazy. All right. Well, thanks again, Brad, for that, Brad S. on that question. From Phil, friend of the show, and has been on once before actually in our baseball playoff show. What teams have you guys been impressed with through 5 weeks, and teams that have disappointed? And which team currently under 500 do you guys see rebounding and making the playoffs? So, Derek, the first question was, what teams have you guys been impressed with through 5 weeks?
And this may run into some that we talked about earlier, but impressed with, and I'll give you 2 names again. Um, I don't want to be a homer, but the Packers have looked very good, especially with what I thought was their weakness, and that they didn't have any receivers. It doesn't seem to be bothering them too much. I was pretty emphatic that, especially looking at the betting line with the Atlanta and Green Bay game with the other day, a week or two ago, you saw everyone kept betting on the 0-3 or whatever 0-4 they were at the time, Atlanta Falcons. I'm like, why the hell is that happening?
Not giving the Green
So
Bay Packers any respect.
I don't know. I was thinking that the Atlanta was going to win that game, and they definitely did not. But the defenses looked good. As far as the AFC team, I'll give you who's looked. I mean, I guess you look at the. No, I'm not going to go with that. The Titans or the Steelers, the undefeated teams, they're easy. I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns. And I think we may talk about them a little later, but the Cleveland Browns have looked very good. Uh, Finally, before the season, we were thinking they have all these weapons in the skill spots: Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, and Nick Chubb, and Kareem Hunt at running back, and they had so much talent in the skill position. You figured at some point there had to be a coach who could get them to play together and to get on a little bit of win streak. They're 4-1, so look out. Um, that division is all of a sudden looking very tough with the Steelers and the Ravens and the Browns, all with 4 wins. That could be a very interesting division going forward.
Well, I'll answer this and then I'll pose you the disappointed teams. But I'm not going to give you just one here. I'm going to give you the NFC South first of all, because the Saints, the Bucks, and the Panthers are all 3-2. So it's a log jam there. I mean,
Yeah.
again, the Seahawks and Packers and the Rams are doing really well, but the Saints, Bucks, and Panthers, that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And some really good quarterbacks too in there, and Breeze and Brady, and then Ryan struggling, but the Bridgewater, and we talked about him earlier. So yeah, the South is interesting to look at. I will give you one for the AFC. And Derek, I don't want to toot my own horn, but the Buffalo Bills are 4-1, and they almost, if they could have just stopped Ryan Tannehill, could have been 5-0. But no, the Bills are playing really well, and I really like Josh Allen. I think in a couple of years we're going to be talking about him in an MVP race, and possibly, depending on his weapons, maybe a Super Bowl in a couple of years. So sneak peek, bold prediction for 5 years down the road. But no, anyway, I want to hear your disappointing teams, and this shouldn't be a surprise, probably.
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of talked about the disappointing teams. The Falcons is definitely someone who disappointed. Um, I will just jump to his next question where he talks about a team under 500 who rebounding and make the playoffs. Let's continue to do it, Joe. I'm going to keep pushing my chips into the middle there and go with the Detroit Lions.
Going here.
Matthew Stafford. I've doubled down, I've tripled, quadrupled down on this. So I really hope at some point it comes. But look at their schedule going forward here. The Jaguars struggling, Falcons struggling, Colts have not been the best, Vikings struggling. Washington struggling. You have to think the Panthers are going to come down to earth a little bit. Texans struggling. It's there. It's there. The Vikings are. You said it earlier. Behind Cousins have really not been good. I really think that the Bears are going to come back to earth a little bit. I think they're more of a 500 team. They're not a top of the league team. Lions, do not let me down. Matt Patricia could be one of those names on that list of fireable coaches if they continue to lose games. They are 1-3 right now. But
you
Phil,
mentioned
there's my pick, the Detroit.
You mentioned the Vikings. Is that a team we could think about for Trevor Lawrence? I don't know. How many more years does Cousins have? An interesting destination for.
I don't know how much is left on his contract, but that's an interesting. If he were to go somewhere who has a decent defense, has some weapons, that's pretty scary. They could be very good, very quick.
That's right. I'm just thinking. I'm just gonna throw it out there. All right, we'll keep an eye on that. But no, well, this is. I mean, you gotta throw the Eagles in there a little bit just because of who they are. I mean, I'm not saying they're the most disappointing, but they're in. I'm gonna stick with the Niners, but I really think you got to look at the Houston Texans. I mean, you fire a coach, you're not even 6 games in. Watson's a ton of talent. J.J. Watt. You know they have the. You know the Texans are. They remind me of that like big movie you want to go see, but then you get there and you're let down. Is that like a good analogy? I mean, honestly, they have these players like Randall Cobb's a good receiver. Like, I don't know. I'm telling you, I really fear for the next coach coming in, but they got to do something with this team. But I think that's gonna be my most disappointing right now, 1-4.
Who do you have as the team under 500 to make the playoffs? Anybody?
Hey, Derek, I got it right in baseball. Remember, I got the Brewers right.
That's true.
I was shocking about that, huh? Well, the easy pick, right, is the Niners at 2-3, but I mean, the NFC East, forget it. I mean, Dallas possibly, but Dalton's gonna have to play great. What a tough question.
That's kind of cheating a little bit because that not only there's no team in the division over 500, so
how about I go New England?
Not even get there. Okay.
But I go New England. Yeah. I got the Buffalo Bills on top. I got the Bills as the Patriots as maybe a wild card. Yeah, they got weapons and Belichick, and yeah, I'd say maybe New England could be a team that could rebound. And Phil, with that wide open question, I mean,
yeah,
really?
Absolutely.
Again there.
Thank you, Phil. Next question comes from Gerald L., who writes, following Dak Prescott's awful injury, how do you see the Cowboys season shaking out with Andy Dalton now under center? Now, for those who didn't see last week, pretty gruesome injury for Dak Prescott, and a shame. He was playing very well. You could say a lot of his stats were kind of in garbage time and some because their defense has been god awful and they just have to play with the defense. But yeah, very gruesome injury. And now the veteran Andy Dalton stepping in for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, and I think people might not remember this, but Andy Dalton, he's a capable quarterback. I'm not going to sit there and say he's going to take Dallas to the Super Bowl or Dallas in the playoffs. I'd be a little crazy. But Andy Dalton's a guy that came out of TCU, and he's a legit average quarterback with a decent arm, and he's going to game manage. He's going to be that quarterback. He's going to be able to manage a football game. And he has Ellie in the backfield. And, I will say about Dak's injury, I was watching getting ready to watch the Seahawks game last weekend with a buddy of mine, huge Seahawks fan, and another buddy of mine who's an Eagles fan. And that was interesting because, listen, I don't mind Dak Prescott. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's actually a pretty good guy, the way he talks in his pregame, postgame stuff. It's just really unfortunate to see an athlete like that get robbed of, and we see it a lot, but this time, man, like Dallas hasn't taken off yet. They could be really good. It just depends on what's going to happen in the division, and of course, what happens to their defense. They got to get shored up. You got to get the kid from Penn State back in Lee, and Vander Esch. But like, come on, like you don't want to see this happen. But you know what? I'll tell you, watch out Dallas next year because he'll be one that, oh man, is he going to want to come back? Like he just got robbed of his pretty much 3/4 of his season. So
yeah,
that's just
and you said Dalton is a very capable quarterback. I mean, it was only last year that he really lost the job in Cincinnati when they ended up drafting the number 1 quarterback in Joe Burrow. But his best years were probably when you're looking at he had 33 touchdowns in 2013. 2015 he had 25-7, and 2016 he made the Pro Bowl. So his best years were when he had back when AJ Green was in his prime, when Mohamed Sanu was a very good number 2 receiver. I think you give him weapons. Now, I really think they're going to try to be more of a running team. There's no reason they shouldn't be, with Ezekiel Elliott being one of the best running backs in the game right now.
Receivers, though. He's got really good receivers.
Exactly. He has great weapons. So I really think you cannot write them off. They, especially with how the teams are playing in the division, I don't see Washington or the Giants stepping up because there's just not enough there to do so. It's going to be down to Dallas and Philadelphia, and those games are going to be pretty crucial between those two teams. Probably will end up determining where the division goes. But where do they go? I mean, I had Dak Prescott, for those who watched a month or so ago. I had Dak Prescott as my MVP. He was playing very well. I had the Cowboys going very far in the playoffs. It's tough, but I stick with him. I really think Andy Dalton, there's a lot worse than you can do in as far as backups in the NFL than someone who has that much experience, probably over 250 games experience, and the talent that he showed years back. Maybe he can rekindle that a little bit and maybe even gain a job somewhere else if they decide to bring Prescott. I think he takes them to the playoffs. Sure.
He's not going to be, and he's not going to be like scared. Like that Eagles game in a couple weeks. That's, the Eagles come off of playing Baltimore on just a real quick Sunday. Giants on Thursday night, and Dallas after a bye, I think it is. It's, and you're playing Dallas in a spot where you're really hurt right now. So Even though they lost a quarterback, yeah, Andy Dalton will not be scared of the moment. And it'll be interesting to see what happens on Sunday, as I'm sure we'll communicate over the weekend as we usually do about the games. But yeah, that'll be one to watch for.
I will say, you talk about big games being in that division against well, the Browns are technically, I guess you could say, their rival, but
Right.
against Big Ben all those years in
Right.
Pittsburgh, against a great defensive teams in Baltimore and Joe Flacco, back
Like
when he was
Jacksonville, right?
playing, and you know,
That, that,
great games that he had to
yeah.
play. I know he was supposedly very bad in Monday night and Sunday night games and stuff like that. So
A
we'll see
stat.
if that transfers. But yeah,
Yeah.
just a stat. So it should be interesting.
Good
Absolutely.
college quarterback, too. He was really good at Texas, TCU. And again, he's played big games. He played in the Big 12. That's pretty big football. I
Yeah.
mean, so yeah. And he's from Texas, by the way. In his home state, he's going to have a lot of support. So
Yes.
that'll be another one. So anyway, all right, Jeff L., you're next. Thoughts on the Browns season so far? Do they have enough? Do they have enough to make a deep playoff run? Finally.
And we kind of touched on the Braves, the Browns a little bit, and
That's Sunday day.
they're finally coming out of their shell here and playing well. Um, Now Nick Chubb has been injured. When he comes back, him and Kareem Hunt are a great 1-2 tandem. Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham. I know sour grapes to some Giants fans around here with Odell Beckham, but
So talented,
he's
though.
never completely stepped up in Cleveland. We'll see if this is finally the year. I know he has the most yards on the team right now, but so let's look at the schedule. Well, let's see who they beaten so far. They got trounced in week 1, and I was pretty scared for them after they lost 38-6 to the Baltimore Ravens. So, but then they beat the Bengals in a close game. Okay. They beat Washington. Okay. They put up 49 on the Cowboys defense, who can't seem to stop anybody right now. And then they beat the Colts, who have been kind of a 500 team. But so the next a couple games here at Pittsburgh, at Cincinnati, home versus the Raiders, home versus the Texans, home versus the Eagles, at the Jaguars. What does that tell you? That tells me those are some pretty winnable games. There's none there that really scream to me, oh my God, they can't win that. Maybe at
Pittsburgh
Pittsburgh.
will be difficult.
But yeah. But
That one.
if they win, they're already 4-1. If they win 4 of those games, they're pretty much, now remember, 7 teams make the playoffs this year
Right.
in each league. So I think it's a very good chance that they make the playoffs this year.
6-2.
Whether
It's still
they
be
do
in shape.
anything yet, whether they do anything yet, I don't know. But I think that they definitely have a shot at making the playoffs. Absolutely. Jeff L.
Thank you, Jeff. Derek, I think you have a very special question.
Well, so
From
this
one of
one
our
came this one came from my girlfriend, Lindsay Ervelina. Before I read the question, I do want to thank Lindsay for all she has done for us. For those that don't know, she put she put together that great graphic before the show comes up, and she's done our presentations, and she's put a lot into it for us. So I thank her very much
appreciate it.
for helping us out. Now, as to her question, for those that don't know, Lindsay grew up in Buffalo. So her and her family are a Buffalo Bills fans. So her question is, why am I hating so much on the Buffalo Bills? Listen, time out here. I'm not hating on the Buffalo Bills. I just don't. I never really thought that Josh Allen was the quarterback that we're seeing. Um, I have to stick with it though. I cannot back down on it that I still think the Patriots take the division.
There it is.
Because I'm gonna throw out who they've played again. I think I said it last week. They played the Jets, bleh, 0-5. They beat at the Dolphins, bleh. They beat the Rams, who have been very good, as we talked about. And the Raiders have been very good. They just got trounced by the Tennessee Titans. And I think that really shows where they're at, because the Titans are a top team in the league, and they did not play with they were not in that game at all. They play the Chiefs going forward. I see that as a loss. They play the Jets, probably a win. The Patriots and Seahawks, and at the Cardinals, at the 49ers. That's a tough schedule.
Tough schedule.
I don't. They're not going to be 4-1 if whatever that equates to a 12-4 season. That I'd be shocked if that. I will probably eat the crow on the table and let people watch me when that happens, because I've said it like 10 times now. I don't believe in them, but
No, you don't. You don't.
hey,
You're
I've been
sticking
wrong
with
before.
You're sticking with your prediction, and I just, for some reason, I think Josh Allen is a little bit underrated. He's good with his legs. He has a good arm. He's got weapons. We've talked about him before. But you're right. Tennessee with a big win. That's a big win for Tennessee. You're right, though. The Chiefs will be a tough game for them. The Niners game might be interesting, because they got to beat the Niners or Seahawks. If they do that, that could be really, really interesting. And let's not throw shade at the Dolphins. They are only 2-3 right now. They're usually like 1-6, or So the Dolphins haven't played terribly. So I will say that, as my girlfriend's a big Dolphins fan, so shout out to that. Okay, so anyway, I think that there's not much to say about the Bills, but Lindsay, hey, hats off to you guys rooting for the Bills, because I know Buffalo, there's not much else there. So I mean, gotta root for the Bills. But anyway, so Derek, I think we can come up to our final question for Matt K. Is that correct? Got one more to go.
Absolutely.
All right. Who will be the team that stays undefeated the longest? Oh boy. Say the best for last.
And that's an interesting question. So we'll just let's run through each of them real quick. I have them up on the computer here, Joe. Let me know when you think they lose a game. So for those that don't know, there are 4 teams undefeated yet. We have the Tennessee Titans, 4-0, the Pittsburgh Steelers, 4-0, the Green Bay Packers, 4-0, and the Seattle Seahawks are 5-0. So we'll start with the Titans, 4-0. Home game against the Texans.
Win.
I agree. Home game versus the Steelers.
Loss.
Do you think that's where they lose?
Is it in Tennessee?
In Tennessee.
Yep. All right. I still say loss. I like the Steelers defense and too much Roethlisberger.
I tend to agree with you.
It's Tannehill.
Because and I mentioned earlier in the season when Pittsburgh really shut down Saquon Barkley. I'd be interested to see if they can do the same thing against Derrick Henry. Like you said, a very different physical beast, maybe the same talent, but I like to think yeah, I know. I like to think the defense would stop them too. I agree. So that would be in 2 weeks, the Titans lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers are our next team.
Oh boy.
Obviously, we picked them to win. So how much further do they go? This week, they're home against the Browns. I'd say they take down the Browns. We both have them beating the Titans, so that would be another week. At Baltimore.
Loss. Too much. Yeah. Way too much Jackson. Way too much Ingram. Yeah, the Ravens offense would. I mean, the Steelers defense is good. Maybe it's a closer game, but I think Baltimore gets the win there.
Yeah.
6-1
And
is not bad.
a little tidbit: Baltimore will be coming off their bye as well.
Oh boy,
So
after beating up
and
the Eagles.
I think this is a very big time
Yeah.
um, to have that against the division rival.
Right.
I don't see any reason why Baltimore wouldn't be able to beat them. Now, we will say Lamar Jackson has been a little iffy this year. Um, I don't know about your MVP pick there so far, but
He's so
that's very
fast.
interesting. Yeah, we'll see. I think they do take him down. I agree. So, um, moving on to the Seahawks here, that's an interesting one. They're going to have games in that division, so eventually I have to think they'll lose. This
Almost
week,
lost Monday night, Sunday night.
actually, I believe they have a bye this week, so
Yeah,
by
last second
default,
though. Last second, they almost lost to the
that's
Vikings.
true. Yeah. Next game is at Arizona. Arizona's playing well.
They are, but I think if you're going to get into a shootout game with Seattle, you're going to lose. I think you got to shut down the Seahawks. So I guess I'm saying the Cardinals' defense isn't as good as we think, maybe in a way. Their offense is good. Colin Murray and Hopkins, and trust me, they're really good. But I see Seattle beating them.
I think that might be the only division game they lose. I think
Hashtag Wilson on a mission.
one place that the Seahawks significantly struggle is at cornerback. And
Yeah.
DeAndre Hopkins, I see probably having a similar to Devontae Adams in the beginning of the year against the Vikings, a 15 catch, 170 yards. I
Good for
wouldn't be
me.
shocked.
That'd be good for me.
And I think they go down
Right.
there. Where do you have them going here? Their next
Thursday.
game is home to the 49ers. Seahawks at home to the 49ers.
They don't lose at home.
Win. Okay.
Yeah.
At Buffalo.
Oh boy. Wow. Allen Wilson, Brown, and Lockett. Oh man, that's a great game. Nope, Seattle win. Gonna go Seattle win again.
At the Rams. What about there?
All right, that takes a lot out of them against the Bills. The Rams beat them. Goff, he finds the magic again. Big win. I don't know. That's really hard to pick.
Well, so you have them at 7-0, I believe, and then or 8-0 actually, and then going down.
I think they lose to St. Louis or Los Angeles. St. Louis.
The last team would be the Green Bay Packers here, and so they have their first game. They're actually in a what would be a Fox primetime game on Sunday against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers at Tampa Bay. Very sneaky game. What do you think?
I don't know. They just had their bye. They're healthy, it seems like. I don't know. Too much Adams, maybe a little too much Jones. Tampa Bay is going to put up points, but I think Green Bay wins by 2 touchdowns.
I think coming off a bye, I think they win too. Then again, and the Buccaneers have not been completely healthy. I know Chris Godwin has not played too much. Leonard Fournette is still hurt. If everyone was healthy, I think they beat the Packers. But if they don't, if those guys don't play, I think that the Packers will beat them. Next game is at Houston for Green Bay.
I think that's a win. Just the coaching situation, the talent's there, like we've been saying, but they're missing something. I don't know what it is, but they're missing something. I think Aaron Rodgers again, too much.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I think the Texans win that one, or the Packers win that one, excuse me. And then home to the Vikings.
At Green Bay, Lambeau. What was the score in the first one?
It was 43-34. The Packers won.
know what? I'm gonna say Vikings. I think the Vikings give them a loss.
You read my mind.
Feel it.
The
Vikings.
interdivisional matchups, you never, and I think I may have said this before, in the NFC North, you truly do not know each week who's going to win. And I would not be shocked if the Vikings win there. So I don't know. I think we had the Seahawks lasting the longest to answer Matt K's question.
Hey,
But I think any last thoughts, Joe? I think that's where we're gonna finish up for today.
yeah, and I guess the show will be posted, or everybody will be able to hear it or see it in a couple days, right?
Yep.
Sunday or Monday, and then we're going to be doing a show hopefully Tuesday afternoon before the first game of the World Series. As Derek told me off the air, we will be having to do a show then because the World Series is still not set, Derek. Still
No,
not set.
no.
Still exciting games
Great,
going on.
great series so
It is
far. Yeah,
great. Both series
yeah.
are living
And,
up to
and
it. So
we'll,
yeah,
yeah,
this is
we'll
a fun show though.
we'll get into that a little later, but yeah, that will probably come out on Tuesday. We're gonna have this up on Monday, our normal day that we put up our videos. But as always, thank you very much, Joe, for being here. Now,
It was fun.
please, as always, feel free to comment on the video, send us an email. Our email is again timeout Derek and Joe at gmail.com. We would like to have these shows once in a while where we take questions from everybody, maybe fill them in at the end of each episode. If we get some, we would love to hear from you. We want to make this a little more interactive for everybody. So don't be scared. No questions stupid, as they used to say in school. But thank you very much for everyone's support. And we will have this up for you on Monday. As always, thank you for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. For Joe Azalai, I am Derek Gano. Take care, stay safe. God bless.